Hello and welcome to Glitchy, we're a gaming podcast, and each week we take a deeper look into the art of video games. As always, I'm Christian.
And I'm Chris.
And welcome back, you guys. Today we are going to be talking about some games that have been really piquing our interest lately. We touched on them a little bit in the last episode, but we really want to dive into them some more. As you all know, or I'm sure you're aware of if you are into gaming, right now is like... there's so many games out right now, like amazing titles to pick up, but me and Chris have kind of been focusing on two very specific titles, and we both said that we're going to make it a point to try and not purchase the other game so that we can, each of us have our experience with it, talk about it, and then maybe trade off sometime later in the future to kind of see where our interests are later on. But the two games that we are going to be talking about today are Elden Ring and Triangle Strategy. Two very completely different games, I would say, both on opposite sides of the spectrum, but amazing titles on their own, both of them. Like, they are really, like, I would say I'm hooked with Triangle Strategy. I don't know about you with Elden Ring. I know you put in some hours, but yeah, these games are like revolutionary, I would say. Like, they are really showing off what this generation of games can be and just showing off what games can do now. Like, there's so much stuff to dive into, but I feel like that's what this episode is going to be. It's just going to be like a love letter to these two games, honestly. And, we can try and pick them apart a little bit. And since neither one there's I don't know much about Elden Ring, and you've been kind of staying away from Triangle Strategy. So I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of see where our initial reactions are to the opposing games, right? Mm-hmm. And then kind of like go from there. So I figured, why don't we start off with, what is your view on Triangle Strategy without playing it? Like, I know you've been looking into it. You've heard me rant about it for way too long, and you've heard some other people talking about it, but what do you think about Triangle Strategy from an outside perspective, someone who hasn't played it yet?
I mean, I played the demo, and I was interested from the moment I heard about it. Like, I remember, I think it was during a direct. Yeah, obviously it's a direct. It's Nintendo. And I was like, what is this? Like, this looks amazing, and I really want to play it because I thought maybe it played in the same world as Final Fantasy Tactics. So I got really hyped about it. Once I found out it was its own thing, I was like, well, this could be cool. I mean, I'm a person that loves like dialogue choices that affect the story. And I mean, this game obviously does that in a very full effect, but it's a game I really want to play. And because I feel like Square Enix hasn't done a tactics game in a very long time, or at least one that's done well. I know that there was just, during the State of Play today, they unveiled another strategy RPG that doesn't it's not completely a tactics grid-based like Triangle, but it's kind of like you move your unit, it stops time for a second. Like, it's a different kind of strategy. And I'm like, oh, maybe Square Enix is getting back into their strategy games. Like,
what was that?
I love these kind
gun
of games.
Game, that like war one that did that. Do you remember that one?
Front Mission?
Maybe it was Front Mission. It was like anime kind of graphics, and you can like, it was like actual like Warzone.
Oh, Valkyrie Chronicles.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
That one was interesting.
Was it kind of like that? I haven't seen the footage for this one.
No, this one is called Diofield Chronicle, which is kind of a ridiculous name, just like Triangle Strategy.
Well, Triangle Strategy is no bad. Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, that's a horrible name.
Honestly, and it's weird. The graphics to it look kind of weird. It feels like it's, I don't know, maybe a DS game or a PS3 game, the way the graphics look, which, I mean, I'm not knocking it, right? Graphics don't always mean everything, but it's different. It's not the same as a tactics game. It's more, I can't really think of a game similar to it, because it's like, say, I mean, it kind of is like the Valkyrie Chronicle, but I mean, there's no like third person shooter part to it, right? Like it's top down. It's kind of like an RTS, but
Okay.
time stops when they engage. Like you can select what moves they're going to do. Like to me, it's the answer to people that don't want to sit around and move characters on a grid.
Got it. So it's like kind of like, okay, yeah, so I would say like RTS, but more strategy based.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
still has the turns kind of when you come to select it, but yeah, it's not like an always moving, no pause kind of RTS.
Got it. Makes sense. But yeah, so I've been playing the hell out of Triangle Strategy lately, and this is the first time that I'm actually taking my Switch out of the home. Like, I haven't had a game where I've really wanted to play this one on the go, and I've been playing it on my lunch breaks. I've been playing it every chance I get because this game is amazing, and I'm almost about like the 20-hour mark right now. I
Damn.
just absolutely am loving this title because there's so much to it. And yes, I would say like it is like the new evolution of Final Fantasy Tactics. It is tactics on steroids. Like the battle system itself, if it was just focused on that, it would be amazing because of the different types of synergies, the different classes that you have available. I mean, hell, there's 30 unlockable characters, but the unlockable characters are based on the choices that you make within the game, which is really, really cool to me. I know that a lot of people are probably eventually going to try and, gamify it and really cheat the system to get the characters that they want in the long run. But I'm making it a point to not look at any walkthroughs or any real big information or spoiler stuff, to really just play the game through and really try and live with the choices that I make. Because like I said, the battle system is great, but what really kills this game, what really like sends it above and beyond, is the dialogue itself and the story, right? So this story is amazing. If you like Game of Thrones, then you're gonna love this. This is like Empire story, like 100%. It's amazing. It's so good. There's espionage, there's like people backstabbing each other, there's even like minor like slavery and racism issues that are being brought up in this game. Like there's a lot to this, which is really, really interesting, and it makes it feel so much more real. But really like drives that point home that your choices matter is the conviction system, right? So whenever you make a choice, your convictions, they alter, and it's an invisible stat that you don't really see. What that set does actually is it will unlock different characters along your journey. So depending on what choices you make, you're basically creating or molding your main character, Sarah Noah, into who you are as a person, right? Based on your choices. And depending on what you choose, certain people will align with that, right? So like if you are more utilitarian in nature, then you're going to get characters that are more utility based, right? So it narrows in on that, which is really, really interesting. And another thing too with the choices is that every time there's a big branching off point, they go to this thing called the scales of conviction. And that's whenever the main party of 7 actually votes on what path they're going to go on. You as a main character don't really like, you do have a say in which direction you're going to go because you can try and persuade people one way or another. But what I really like about this game, and it actually happened to me yesterday, which is really interesting, is you can create a valid argument based by gathering knowledge when you're traveling through towns and things like that. You hear little snippets of what people are saying, and you basically bank that information for conversations later. Now, whenever you come to the scales of conviction, you can, every time you try and dissuade someone from the choice that they were going to originally make, they go into the undecided window, right? So you don't know where they're going to cast their vote in the end. And most of the time, it did feel as if once they're undecided, they do end up siding with the choice that you were kind of pushing for. But last night, actually, there was a little dialogue text that popped up above one of my characters right before he casted his vote. And he said, "I'm so sorry, my lord, but I cannot follow you with this choice." And he chose against the thing that I was trying to go for. And I was like, oh shit, that's so cool. Like, I don't know. I love that idea because even though it felt like, okay, this was the best argument I could put forward, his convictions did not let him like waver in the choice that he was going to make. So it was really, really interesting the way that dynamic works. And it just felt like you're actually dealing with real people in that situation. So the way the triangle strategy works, and it's kind of where the name comes from, is that the game is actually broken up into 3 different sections. It's exposition, exploration, and battle. And so you basically go through those in a sequence. So you start out with some exposition to get the main story. Then you can maybe explore the town a little bit, find, basic JRPG stuff where like you go into someone's house and there's, $500 laying on the ground. Let me pick this up and just keep it for my own, right? So, but what you're also doing in the exploration phase is talking to people and gaining those tidbits of knowledge along the way. So it's actually really, really cool. And the leveling system in this game is pretty brilliant. At first I was like, oh great. It's kind of like I was a little timid at first because it felt like it was just going to be like normal tactic style leveling up system where, you can have your healer sit in the back and just heal themselves over and over again and just level up. But they actually put a kind of like a level cap or they start hindering your experience gain depending on the level that you're at and who you're facing and what you're actually doing at that time. If you're trying to heal somebody who's already like at max health and isn't really in much danger, you might only get 2 experience, right? But if you are healing someone who's critical, who actually does end up sometimes, they'll like call for aid if their health falls below a certain HP level, then you might get the 100 points of experience to level up your character instantly right there. So it's actually kind of cool the way that this dynamic is working out. But it's not just the leveling system that you can do. You can also level up your weaponry. So like your basic skills, like the simple stats, and like change the weapon you have. And then you can also level up the rank of your characters as well. And all of these things are very hard to come by as far as items to level up your characters, which is a great way to kind of, like I would say, level gate the game itself to keep it difficult in the long run, right? So you never feel overpowered. So like you can go and grind these things that are called mock battles. So it's like mind battles. But if you keep doing it, you're going to become over leveled and then all your actions are only going to get you like 2 experience points, right? So like it really just does not help you out at all. So like it really wants to make sure that you're at the right level at all times to keep it somewhat difficult. So it is really, really cool. And I'll end this at this. So if you guys aren't sold yet on this game, this really blew my mind, right? So I was faced with a really difficult decision, like I said, that I actually had to like turn the game off for a minute, really think about what I was going to do, like which lords have been kind of on my side or a little bit in the shadows, and just really weigh out those decisions. But then it came down to the point of like, okay, there's a massive battle happening. We have these traps set around the city that if I set them off, the battle will be much easier, but it will also destroy all the homes in my town, basically making my villagers like out of home. Like it would ruin their livelihood. So I did everything in my power. I never set off a trap. It took me a few tries to actually get it. I kept losing this battle because it's really, really hard. But I did it without setting off any traps or setting any of the homes on fire and destroying the village. And then at the end, like whenever I got to re-explore the city, there was these kids that I talked to beforehand. And then whenever I talked to them again, they said, oh my God, thank you so much for, like you did what you said you would. You protected us. You kept us safe. And my favorite toy is now still with me. Like a little thing like that. Such a small detail. I'm like, this is great. I love this idea that you don't have to actually destroy everything. You can't it really makes you want to weigh out all the choices because everything leading up to that, everyone was like, okay, like we have to use these traps. Here's the traps, find them. Even in the battle overview, the only thing for that battle was here's where the traps are and this is where the fire is going to spread. So use them wisely. Like it never hinted at the fact that you don't have to use them if you don't want to, which I thought was brilliant. But yeah. like I said, you guys need to check out this game. And if this hasn't sold you on it, like just watch some footage of it. It's gorgeous. If you like Octopath Traveler, that same style of graphics, it's beautiful. And God, I'm loving it. I love this game.
Well, I guess now it's question time because I have a couple questions about it.
Yeah.
Because there's the three different like dialogue choices, right?
Mhm.
It's like balance or the three.
Yeah, liberty, morality, and utility. But you
And they
don't
all have a
actually know which is which.
okay, because I was gonna say, are they color coded?
Nope.
And if they are, those like say one of those isn't always centered on one kingdom. It's always random, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Which is
Ooh.
really, really cool. So, like, every time you get choices that pop up, I'm pretty sure that they're randomizing the order so that you don't learn, like, oh, the first one's always liberty, the second one's always morality, the third one's utility. So, like, you really have to, like, pay it. You can't just mash through conversations. You have to actually pay attention to what people are saying because sometimes these questions pop up even if they don't have, like, a little icon above their head. Usually, whenever you run into somebody on the map and they have an icon above their head, you know that you're going to have to answer one of their questions with one of these answers, right?
Hmm.
But sometimes I've run into it where you're just talking to like a kid, and all of a sudden, like a question pops up, and you're like, "Oh shit! Like, what did they say?" Like because you kind of get into the habit of like, "Oh, you're nothing," blah blah blah. Let me just speed through this, and you're like, "Oh my god!" Like you actually had a real question, and now I have to answer this thing, right? And like
Yeah.
now I need to think like, okay, not just as a gamer of trying to, get the best possible outcome because you have no idea what that outcome might be. You're actually thinking about it as the lord of this land. What would you say as the lord of this land during a war to soothe your citizens so that their morality stays high and then you're not making a choice that's going to, be the downfall of this society, and like you have the backing of your people but then you're also not pissing off your party. Like there's a lot to this. So like it really makes it feel like a real person like simulator, like it's really interesting.
That sounds really cool because that's what I was worried about. Where it's like that one of them is always going to be that answer and so forth. Because I fall into that trap in games like this. Like you look at Mass Effect and it's like obviously labeled your choice, right? So it's like for me, I'm like, okay, well, I know there's multiple endings, so I'm just going to answer this one way the whole time to see what would happen, like
Yeah.
making it so you can't really predict what it is provides more of an organic story to be told. And I think
Right.
that's really cool, which, it sounds a lot deeper than most other games with these expansive dialogue choices. And something I have heard about it, though, I mean, it doesn't scare me off, but I do get overwhelmed by it sometimes, is that I heard the cutscenes are really long.
They are very long, yeah. I would say so, but it's interesting. Like it's actually necessary, the length of the cutscenes.
Okay.
So like I wouldn't get too turned away by that. And like let me give you a actual example of one of the conviction conversations, right? So this is basically the right hand or the bodyguard of the prince, right? So the prince is in danger right now and his name's Roland, and you're talking to that bodyguard and she's nervous. She doesn't know what to do right now. She doesn't know what choice to make next. So I'm going to read you the answer that you could potentially give her, and I want you to kind of guess whether it's liberty, utility, or morality. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So circumstances aren't as dire as they seem. We only need survive tonight, and then we can seek out allies to rally around Roland. Is that liberty, utility, or morality?
Liberty?
That's utility. The liberty answer is, could Roland not flee on your hawk? That may be his best chance for survival.
That sounds more like it'd be a utility, though.
Right. So that's how like kind of nuanced these choices are. So you will never know exactly what choice you're making, which for some people that might be a turnoff, right? I totally get that because you're trying to get the max stats. You want to, playing JRPGs all my life, I totally understand that. You want to max out everything. But this is a really nice change because all it will ever say is after you make one of these choices is that Serenoa's convictions have changed. And in the top corner, that's all it says. It doesn't tell you what, it doesn't tell you how many points you have into what stat or whatever. It's just that, which is super, super cool. Oh, and it actually does randomize the order. So you'll never know which one's which.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of winning me over a little bit more. Like I knew that I would like the game, but is the class system cool? Like, can you change classes, or is each character their own class and they just stay that way?
So each character is stuck in their own class, which is fine because it's actually really interesting leveling them up and kind of creating a fun party dynamic. There's no right or wrong answer to the party dynamic, but usually you can take out around 9 to 12 people depending on the battle.
Okay.
So you can have a decent chunk of people out at any given time. But if, like, for instance, one of the classes that I think is freaking amazing is like the artisan class, right? So it's a class that I've never actually heard of before. There's a lot of classes in this game that I'm like, I don't know what this is. This is really cool though. So the artisan class actually is able, so he was a blacksmith who asked to join the Lord because his friend had passed away in battle, and he was upset because the sword that he made his friend broke. And he's saying that he needs to know fear and to know battle to know how to weave steel to protect people. And I was like, I love this. I love this guy. But one of the cool things that he can do in battle is actually create ladders for your party to use to access different areas, to climb up on rooftops, to gain vantage points for things. And like, it's really, really cool. So it really opens up the battlefield. I just unlocked another class that I thought was pretty brilliant. So it's the merchant class. And he is a very greedy person. So you'll hear what he's saying to people, and then you hear his internal dialogue to himself. And he's all about, let me just make as much money as possible, right? And so one of his abilities is that he's able to either aggravate, so like he pulls aggro of people, or he's able to persuade people to like turn coat, basically, right? To like change alliances based off of his like bribing skills. So it's like super interesting to do that. I don't know. It's a really cool class, and there's all kinds of interesting class dynamics that are in there. And actually, one of my favorite classes that I'm surprised about because he doesn't really do much damage is the tactician. So Benedict is the advisor to the Lord Serenoa. And his main purpose in battle is to either, buff people, or like one of his great abilities is called Now. And basically what it does is it puts one of your character's turns next in order. So you can just say like, okay, like this person just went, and then now Benedict goes and he says now, and now that person's going to go again, right? So it's kind of cool, and you can kind of use that to create interesting situations in the battlefield.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
And that merchant is different. Like I'm used to the merchant tactics where it's more like a item user healer kind of person. So it's interesting like how the bribing works in the game.
Yeah, the item user person, the one that can use like 2 items at once, is the apothecary, I believe. So like there's a lot of really cool classes. There's shamans, there's the acrobat, who can actually put a decoy of themselves. It's a girl she's an orphan that like fled to the circus, that typical story, which is kind of funny. There's like fire mages, there's ice, like there's sages, it's really, really in depth. So it's
how
really
many people start out in your party in the beginning? Like I mean, I get that you said it's like 9 to 12 per battle.
So it's 7 to start, and then as the chapters progress, you start unlocking more characters.
Okay, because I know you said 30, and I was wondering like, is that on top of maybe the 10 that you start with, or is that including like
it's including the 7, yeah.
Okay. That's still pretty good. I wonder if there's like special characters that are like
So from what I've read on the character list is that some of the characters you can't get on the first time. Like it's
Gotcha.
impossible to get enough points into any conviction to actually unlock them the first go through. But in
Hmm.
New Game Plus, you actually keep all the characters that you unlock supposedly, and then you can continue with your convictions and like go through the story again, but maybe make different choices and then unlock those other characters that are like super high up.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it kind of
But
makes you want to play through and go on the other side branch, right? Like make the other choice and go visit the other areas.
yeah, but adding the New Game Plus to this kind of game makes it really different. Like, it's honestly really cool. I think it's a
Yeah.
really fresh way of doing that.
Yeah. Definitely I feel like I'm going to be playing through this one at least twice. At least.
Damn.
Yeah. Because there's so much not just for the story, but for like the scenery. Like I want to go to the other city that I didn't go to in my first playthrough just to see what would happen, right?
I
Or
can see that.
make a different decision to see if like, oh, like will this lord still die regardless of what choice I made, right? Like there's a lot of really interesting in-depth stuff like that I want to see. So it's really cool.
Huh.
Super, super cool. But anyway, I think that's enough for Triangle Strategy because this game's great, and I can talk about it for hours. To be honest, like that's how good this thing is. Let's start talking about Elden Ring, the game that a lot of people are like swooning over, and so I'll start out with saying that Elden Ring really looks amazing, but at the same time, I feel like I'm kind of soulsed out, right? Like it's a little tough for me to like really dive 100% into a Souls game, but this is the first one that I've seen in a while that like I really, really want to play it. I want to try it out because it looks really cool. It looks like it's a true open world game in every sense of the name of it, right? And the different classes that you can pick seem really interesting. It does seem still challenging like a Souls game, but a little easier and maybe more inviting than a Souls game. Like I'm wondering if that is 100% the case. So why don't you let us know about your experience with Elden Ring?
So I'm gonna start off with saying like my experience with Souls games. I think I'm about halfway through the original Dark Souls, and then I got maybe 4 hours, 5 hours in the Bloodborne. So I've never been in the Souls game. I've never played to near completion in one. So I'm not a seasoned pro at these games.
Mm.
But I feel like just with years of playing games kind of similar to them, I kind of got good at the combat in these games. And when I first heard about Elden Ring, I honestly wasn't that interested in it because I was like, oh, this is going to be the same old. I'll play it for like a few hours and then I'll just get sick of it. And, it ended up being where I was like, oh, I'm going to buy this because my friend's buying it. We're going to co-op and we're just going to make this like a fun experience. And I requested time off for it too. I took almost like 6 days off.
That still is so amazing to me. I love that. I love that you
And
did that.
the funny thing is like, honestly, like, I didn't think that I would like Elden Ring as much. So I was like, oh, in those days off, like, I'll just finish the New Horizon, right? Because I was playing Forbidden West before Elden Ring. And right at the point where I got to in Forbidden West, I was actually starting to like that game. Because at first, and I mean, for the most part, it does feel like the first game. So when I got to that point, I was like, oh, this game's getting cool. And then Elden Ring comes out, and I'm like, oh, this is much better. But with Elden Ring, I started out as a class that when I play these games, I don't really play with magic. Usually I focus on melee with maybe a healing spell, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Same.
before this, you know what? Actually, no. I played Demon Souls, the newer one, quite a bit. Didn't beat it, but I'm pretty far into it, and it kind of made me interested in playing a class where I'm melee and magic. And so I did that in Elden Ring. a confessor, and I kind of found someone's build because I was messing around at first, and I knew getting into this game I wanted to have a weapon that wasn't a sword, and I found the scythe. And luckily the scythe, the special one I found, uses faith, and that's what my class specializes in. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna be like a holy reaper. Because, I mean, your starting outfit has like a black robe, so it just kind of worked.
I'm sorry, Holy Reaper? That sounds so badass.
Yeah, like that's what I wanted to do, and I mean, I was working it. Like my staff had like holy damage, and it was fucking cool. Like I really liked having the spells, but at the same time, I felt so weak, and I was like, it's not like I was dying a lot. Honestly, like I did a lot of just exploration, and I think I got to level 40 before I fought the first like big boss.
Holy shit.
And luckily I've heard other people usually are about that too, so I don't feel like I just got distracted. But I mean, I did get distracted. I ended up just fully exploring the whole first like continent, first area completely. Like I was going to the catacombs, upgrading stuff, like I was having a lot of fun, but I did feel limited because of my class. I couldn't equip heavy armor, so I was kind of stuck wearing the default armor for most of the game, or at least until recently. And I've just been using the scythe. I actually just maxed it out right before this recording. So I'm actually really excited to see how much stronger it is. But once I beat the first shard bearer, which, you know, in this game, Elden Ring is shattered, and you got to beat the shard bearers, and you want to like restore the order and blah blah blah. Like it's an interesting story that, you know, just like all Souls games, they don't read it off to you, right? It's you have to find the lore, and it's interesting because coming into this game, I knew it was going to be like that, and I was like, I don't know if it's going to hold me. But when I started reading item descriptions and I started like doing the quests in this game, which I'm going to get to in a minute, it made me really start falling in love with it. And this game does something that a lot of modern games don't do. This is more so going back to older games, like games from the early 90s or even late 80s. Like I'm looking at like Wizardry or old school RPGs, right? Where it's a big open world and there's quests lying about, you know, there's a story, but you're not getting the story told to you. Like you have to go and find the story. Like a lot of before Dragon Quest, before Final Fantasy, RPGs were very open-ended in a sense. Like it wasn't like a create your own adventure, but you know, there was a story, but you had to go and explore the world and find it. And I feel like this game is a love letter to that style. There's a few other things I feel like it's a love letter to as well, but I think, you know, yeah, this game's a Souls game, but when you look at the core of it, to me, it's what those old school RPGs that inspired all other RPGs, right? Because Wizardry and like Ultima kind of were the inspiration of RPGs. They were the first ones, really. This game feels like a modern version of that. And granted, I didn't grow up with Wizardry. I was a Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy person. So, I mean, I got used to the story being there, kind of leading you in the right direction. But as I got older, I did play those old games, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I just wish it was modern, because sometimes these older games, it's very difficult to get sucked into it. Enter Elden Ring, and it's like, it's fascinating. There's times where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I really want to keep playing. But then something interesting exists in this little area I'm exploring. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really cool. Like, I want to learn more about it. And then you start learning about everything, like even the little statues that are littered around the continent. And, there's some spoiler stuff, but I'm not going to get into it just because it's actually really fun finding it out. And something that's interesting with Elden Ring is that you can't really get too much spoiled for you, because there was a few things people had brought up when I was kind of like talking with people, and I was like, oh man, now I know that happens. But, that was 50 hours after I heard it. And when it came about, I'm like, why did I get mad about that? Like, that wasn't really a spoiler. Like, this game is such an interesting way of storytelling, and the quest lines that you do, there's two big side quests that really give you an alternate ending. And I finished one of them, and it was hard, but it was really, really cool. And now I'm working on the other one, and it breathes life into the game, creates a backstory, and makes me more interested in this world. Every time I go to a new region, I'm like, I want to see everything. I want to know what's different in this corner of this land than the other corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have that sense of exploration. I thought I was getting close to endgame, but I kind of looked up what other people were saying, like, where they're at, and I guess I'm only at mid game.
Oh shit.
And it's interesting because, I look at the map and I'm like, yeah, I've pretty much explored everything except for the northern area. And it's kind of crazy that, like, there's a lot more than what you really see. And, I didn't realize, like, this game has an underground area too, which it's pretty big. I mean, it's not like the full size of the overworld, but it's pretty huge in its own sense. And it's just crazy how expansive this game is. And, it doesn't, I went into this game thinking it's going to look like the new Demon's Souls, like really like high fidelity, but it's not. I mean, this game looks like Dark Souls 3. Like, it's nothing like earth shattering, but the way it's presented and the big landscapes, it really does feel different and special. And I know everyone says this, but I mean, it's true. It really does feel like Breath of the Wild, but in a more traditional sense, right? Like, Breath of the Wild still had your map markers. It still had that like overarching story, and it did something in the open world like mechanic and tried to do something fresh, whereas Elden Ring took what made open world RPGs in the early days a success and brought it back. It stripped away all this stuff that we got used to in the 2000s with open world games, from like Assassin's Creed and, GTA, all of those open world games, and stripped it back to what gaming was like in the early days, right? But made it 3D. And that's something that I really love about this, because I didn't realize when I was first playing this game. And as soon as I got like further into it, I'm like, wow, like, this feels like a love letter to that kind of stuff. And I mean, I know there's people going into like kind of the lore of it. When I saw George R.R. Martin, I'm like, oh God, it's going to be like kind of like Game of Thrones and stuff like that. And I mean, he just did the mythos, right? The beliefs of the game. Like, he didn't do the actual story.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's times where I'm like, oh yeah, I can tell he had some speech in that part. Like, you can tell like certain areas, but it's a very dark story or dark world. And I noticed it at first with one of the characters, and as I started exploring more, I'm like, oh my God, this game really feels like it's inspired by it, but Berserk. There's a character in there that basically is like Guts, big claymore sword, the tall, like bulky person.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, it's one of my favorite animes. So when I saw that character, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I mean, the sword is actually Guts's too. Like, even the move on it is kind of like what he had in the manga.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
as I got further in this game, I'm like, oh my God, like, this kind of reminds me of the world in that series too. Like, the demons, coming up, creating this whole issue, like that dark fantasy that we saw in that series is in this game. And I'm like, wow, like, it really feels like that. And it makes me really appreciate dark fantasy in a different way. Like, I've always loved this style, but the way this game does it, it's just nice. It's like a clean package. And I can see why people might get overwhelmed by this game. And is this game going to convert people into Souls games? It might. It might make it more presentable because it is open world, and there can be ways to make things easier because of that. For me, I was always interested in those games, and I knew I liked them, and I knew that I could get good at them. I just never wanted to sit there and have the time.
Mm.
This game kind of changed that. For some reason, I got so sucked into this game that, I love it. I want to go and play all the Souls games now. Like, it's granted, I probably need a break after I beat this game, but it's done something to me that I felt like I missed in games.
Mhm.
When I was playing Horizon, I mean, I play games every day. Like, it's just, that's what I do. I don't really care to watch TV. I don't really watch movies anymore unless it's like something I want to see, or, the wife wants to watch something, but I just play games. And I was getting to the point where I'm like, okay, like, I'll play a game for like 2 hours. I'm like, okay, I got to get up, and then I'll get bored. And I'm like, okay, like, I can't get sucked into a game. Or if I do, I just tunnel vision and I don't really pay attention.
Mhm.
This game, I'm thinking about it, right? Like, I'm at work and I'm like, man, I just want to go home and I want to explore. I want to fight something.
Yep.
Like, I want to do more. And as soon as I get home, like, okay, I'm booting it up. Oh, I'm going to go to this area because I haven't been there yet. I want to find items. Like, it's interesting because I haven't felt this way about a game in a long time. And I mean, it's hard to say that I felt this way in other games because there's not many games like this, right?
Mhm.
Where it's so open. I mean, I got this way about old RPGs, and it it's that same kind of happiness. And will everyone feel this way? No. It's just, for me, it has captured me in such a way that I can't really describe, but it's awesome. I definitely feel that the reviews were actually spot on this. And I mean, yes, there were bugs and errors, and on the release, like, getting perfect scores, performance should be held accountable in a game because they do for other games.
Mhm.
But looking away from that, I mean, this game is awesome. And if someone is interested in this and doesn't mind the difficulty, like, I say it's worth a shot. I mean, have a lot of time on your hands. I'm like 85 hours now, and I'm like I said, middle of the ground. Like, there's still a whole area of the map I've never been to.
That's
And then
crazy.
there's little smaller areas that I haven't been to because that's like end game. But it's like, it's just cool, and I'm starting to realize, like, just like Breath of the Wild, I don't have to go to all these places. Especially if it's stuff that might have things that are not for like my class or my build. It's like, why am I going there?
Mhm.
But also, I'm like, I just want to see everything. Like, it's, even if it's the same stupid cave in a different area, I'm like, I kind of want to see what they did different, or I want to see what kind of boss is waiting at the end for me. And I mean, the boss will be different. You don't really see too many reskins of the same boss, which is kind of cool. Like some of the bigger bosses will look the same, but everything is different, and it's really cool. It's weird how well the monsters fit into their environment, and that's something I feel like a lot of games just don't do right. And for a game that isn't trying to be, groundbreaking or breaking the mold, looking back and seeing how this game really is just taking what people loved in the past about early innovative games and bringing it into a modern light. It's just fascinating what they did, and I'm curious to see what they do after this. I mean, I don't think that they're going to do another open world Souls game again, because I bet you this took a lot of work.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, the amount of work, or how it looks like it took forever to make it.
Yeah, and I mean, if they did an open world Bloodborne game, like, oh yeah, I'd be all over that, because I just want to explore more of a setting like that.
That'd be a really cool world. That'd be awesome, actually.
It's like, it makes me realize, I'm like, if it's a linear game like a Souls game, or if it's open world like Elden Ring, I'll enjoy it. Like, the things that do make this game that some people say easier, it's nothing really that changes the game that much, right? It's, people say, oh, you use summons, that makes it easy. You can do a jump attack, it makes things a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, as long as you're having fun with it, right? Once I reached a certain level, I was starting to fall even more in love with the game. Once I got more spells that really looked cool, when I got the armor that I really liked, like, it made me want to play even more. And it's crazy, because there was a point where I'm like getting kind of sick of it, because I felt like I wasn't hitting strong enough damage wise. I hated how I was the same outfit since the beginning. But once it changed, I'm like, oh my God, I want to see more. I want to be more powerful. And it's still there. I mean, I just recently, I kind of jumped into one of those rune farming things, and I did over level or power level a little bit. So, I mean, I am kind of powerful, but surprisingly, I'll still fight a boss, and it's not like I'm like two-shotting it. Like, it takes me a while to take a boss down, which is cool. It's like, oh, I'm not really over leveled. Like, it's still a challenge. And I don't know. It definitely feels different, and it's definitely going to prevent me from buying a lot of games for a while, because I think I will play this for a while. And it sucks because, February had some good games. March has a lot of interesting games coming out this month. Like, I didn't think I'd be in the Elden Ring, because I was like, oh, I'm going to get, Stranger Paradise, because I'm like, oh, it's going to be like Ninja Gaiden but Final Fantasy. Like, how badass is that going to be? And then, I was thinking of some of the other games like Ghostwire Tokyo, all this. I'm like, damn, March is a powerful month. But with Elden Ring, I'm like, I'm good for another month. It sucks, because this game has captured me so much that I haven't been working on any of the projects I've been wanting to do. Like, I was like, before Elden Ring, I was like, oh, I'm getting back into typing my stuff out. I was thinking of different things for the podcast and like videos, and it's like, dude, I'm like stuck.
Yeah.
I think I'm finally getting to a point where I'm like, okay, I need a little bit of a breather. But at the same time, like, I just got powerful enough to really explore this next area. Let's go, like, so I know I'm going to definitely keep going. And I think it's a fun game. It's for people out there that want to play a Souls game, but they're afraid of the difficulty. I mean, to me, this could be one of the easiest Souls games. Like I said, I haven't played all of them. There's reasons why this would be easier, but it's still, at the end of the day, a Souls game. And it will be more difficult than, your Devil May Cry or Nier Automata. Like, it's still challenging,
Mm-hmm.
but there's mechanics in place in the game that do make it simpler. And, like all Souls games, you can cheese. It's a fun game. And if you want to get lost in a world that's challenging and frightening, this game does it. It really does.
Nice. Well, I got a couple questions for you now about this
No,
game.
yeah, sorry,
No,
I
you're
was
good.
freaking babbling.
No, you're good. You're good. It just shows the passion for these games. So these are two amazing titles that are out right now, which is insane because we usually don't get two really big heavy hitters back to back like that. And
Yeah.
needless to say, we have three. I mean, we haven't even talked about Horizon, but that's an amazing title on its own there too. And they all came out around the same time. But coming back to Elden Ring, I do have a question for you about. So you mentioned that you had leveled up to around level 40 before even kind of reaching the first boss, right? So you did a lot of exploration beforehand and kind of ventured around the map. Now, when you started playing through more of the quests and the stories, did you end up having to go back to the same areas that you had already explored because you were just kind of venturing out? Or was it kind of like locked? Like, or did like were all the bosses on the map available to you right away, or did they unlock in sequential order?
You can go anywhere you want in that map. You don't have nothing is locked. Well, so the last area, it's like a plateau, right? I mean, this isn't the last area. It's the spot leading up to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lift that you have to take to get up there, and you need like 2 halves of medallion, which are kind of difficult to get if you're just starting out. But there's an alternate path that leads up there, but it's a windy mountainous road with like 2 dragons on it, and it's frightening. So I mean, if you're able to challenge that, then yes, you can go to most things in this game as soon as you start out. Are you going to last? No. But, nothing really gets locked out. If you're a person trying to get trophies, yes, there are 1 or 2 things that could be missable because of a quest line, like a boss. But other than that, like, you don't lock yourself out of things. There's things you can find for a boss that, like an item from someone that'll make it easier. And it's crazy. After being once I reached a higher level, I went back to the starting area and I was just cleaning the map of all those bosses that were like killing me.
Right.
But you can, nothing really gets locked. You don't have to like beat something to go to something unless it's like map progression. Like the game is open world. There are legacy dungeons like the castle. So I mean, yeah, you have to fight one person to get to the next. But people have also found ways to get around a boss to go to the main boss of an area, which is crazy to think about.
That's pretty cool. So you mentioned that you are doing kind of like a faith build, right, on your side.
Mm-hmm.
So I have seen some footage, just like one video, honestly, on it where someone was doing like a bleed build and they ended up having like Wolverine claws that just shredded the boss that they were fighting. Like they were having such a hard time doing it with the sword. Then they popped on these claws and it stacked like bleed like insane, where out of nowhere, like the bleed damage would pop and it would do like 800 damage when each one of their hits is only doing like 16. So like it's pretty crazy. So like how dynamic are the builds in Elden Ring? Like is there like other things besides faith and bleeding? I don't know about the other builds.
Oh yeah. I mean, you're always going to have your melee, you're always going to have your magic, and faith is a little different than your typical like sorcerer, right? Like sorcerer, they get more like a wider range of spells, whereas like faith and holy builds, like I use lightning, holy, and I have this thing called dark flame, which is like the evil version of an attack. But like how you're saying with the Wolverine, I mean, there's all different kind of weapon types, right? There's hammers, fists, everything. And I mean, there's even some kind of special random weapons that make no sense. But bleed builds are one of the more powerful ones. I think a lot of people are realizing that's like one of the best debuffs that you can put on someone.
So like highest DPS.
Yeah, because especially with the claws, like I got them and I tried it out and I do like them. It's with them because they strike so fast, you can really build up the bleed really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for later bosses, that's going to do a big chunk. Like, I mean, like you said, like you can be smacking them for like, you know, 40 damage and then the bleed hits and it's like, here's 5,000 damage. You know, like it bases off of their health, right?
Okay.
So later on, it ends up being like really, really useful. And I mean, other things too. Like I went into a boss fight and people were saying, oh, it's good to proc him with something. And he's weak to, it's called Scarlet Rot. And basically it's kind of the same thing as a poison. It's just, it ticks their health off a lot faster. And it does it to you too. But I got this dragon head that I put. It's a dragon spell because you can get dragon spells in this game.
Oh, cool!
And it breathes out this. It's called like rotten breath, and it just spews this scarlet rot on the boss. And once it hit, it just kept ticking him slowly over time. So all I had to do was really run around the map and kind of like dodge his attacks. And this thing was just ticking health off of him the whole time. And this dude, you have to imagine, you know, they have over like 50,000 HP or something really high.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing is just burning it down. But yeah, there's samurai class because, you know, there's the katana in here. And
that's the one
you know, there's different builds. And I mean, as time goes on, people are going to find new ones. I know with magic, it's easy to get kind of sucked into a certain path. Like I know with my faith build, like you can just focus on lightning and fire, or because you can't use all your spells at once, you kind of have to allocate slots for it. And then certain ones like dragon spells need you to raise 3 different skills, whereas like holy and lightning, it's just 2. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go. You know, with weapons, it's interesting because like my scythe, it's holy. I can't, but it has bleed effect on it because it's a scythe.
Mm-hmm.
So not only am I doing bleeding damage, but with the holy, I can do even more damage to an enemy that's weak to that.
Got it.
And it's interesting because I have had that where I notice both. And I forget sometimes that my scythe has the bleed option on it. And I'm like, why am I like really destroying this boss? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Like it's crazy. You know, you don't really think about you doing those kind of stats ailments on an enemy and seeing the results. Because I feel like most games you do that, you don't really see much of a change. But bleeding, poison, all of that in this game, it can really mess you up. And same with bosses. Like it's cool. And that's the other thing I like about this game is that it's brand new and everyone's discovering kind of the same stuff you are at the same time. You know, there's new weapons people are finding every day so far that I'm like, oh my God, I want to find it, you know,
right.
And there's new builds popping out. I mean, the game hasn't been out long enough for people have actually like had time to really play a build and see what they like. But like people are getting there, you know, like with samurai, most people will do like a bleed build. They'll get that katana, go full on bleed, and it's crazy what you can do. Like it really does make you really powerful.
Nice. Yeah. Oh boy. So yeah, these are 2 amazing Juggernaut games that have come out, like we said, and we've both been playing the hell out of them and enjoying them tremendously. And if either one of these games you were on the fence about, like you really can't go wrong with which one you pick. Because while they both are completely different as far as what style of gameplay it is, right? One is a tactics JRPG and the other one is like Souls game, man. It's hard. It's slash. It's hack. It's all that fun stuff. But they are both incredibly enjoyable and definitely worth the money, because you will, if you're trying to do like, dollar per hour kind of cost here, both these games, you're going to get your money's worth 100%, not just
Oh, yeah.
with the amount of time you're going to put in, but just the sense of enjoyment that you're going to get from playing these titles. And I think you mentioned it right there at the end too. What's so great about these two games and us playing them right now is the fact that we are learning as people are learning about it, right? Like it's like right on the precipice, right on the cusp of everyone finding out stuff like this. Like I looked in to see like how long is Triangle Strategy, like where's like how many chapters is it and all that fun stuff. And on one of the walkthroughs, like they only had 4 chapters listed. And this was like a pretty big website out there that like, it's IGN. They only had 4 chapters. I'm like, there's way more than 4 chapters. So like they're actually still writing it every day. They're adding to it, right? For Triangle Strategy. I'm like, that's amazing that, as I'm playing through this, like they're still trying to update this walkthrough. It's not fully found out or fleshed out. Same thing with Elden Ring. So right now is such a great and exciting time to play these titles for just the sense of exploration. And if you do pick them up at a later date, then, there's still going to be so much fun. But I would still challenge you, if you are picking these games up at a later date, to kind of avoid as much information as possible and we'll go into it with fresh eyes and a fresh mind and just try and just enjoy the exploration of the title itself, because these games have so much to offer. So much. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us this week. I hope you guys really enjoyed our dives into these 2 titles that have been kind of taking over our lives a little bit, I would say. We've been very immersed in these 2 titles. So we hope that you guys enjoyed this little conversation. And we will talk to you all next week as we dive further into the world of games. All right. Bye.
Bye.